crushing it there. And Michael, of course, no better way, I would imagine, to spend Father's Day weekend, and happy Father's Day to everybody out there who celebrated this weekend, but no better way to spend Father's Day weekend than you getting an awesome pod going and sitting on the couch watching the U.S. Open, soaking in what was ultimately chaos and fun and excitement and gave you everything yesterday.
It was so good, right? I mean, it was the Open, and usually I have my two sons around me to watch and give me commentary, but unfortunately I didn't have it this year. I missed them, and hope we'll get back. Maybe they'll be back by the British Open. We can enjoy that in the mornings, which is always good. But this was good. It was entertaining, right? Like, I thought NBC was trying to they were trying to make it like Tony Finau. They were hoping he could get in it. They were trying to make it a three-man race. They just never could, right? Mm-hmm. Every time I turn around, where Finau's, he's got to make this putt to get in within, to get back into this, and he's like 80 feet away. Like, he's not making that putt. What am I watching it for? He's got no chance to make that putt, and of course it slides. Oh, he just missed, well, he's running out of holes. Of course he's not going to get in it. But I thought it was great, and I think that Rory's going to have to face the reality of it all. I mean, he can, obviously emotionally, watching that, you saw him in the clubhouse. He's watching him finish. There's a moment, this is the worst part of sports, when you are watching something and you get your hopes up, right? He's got a ball with a branch right next to it in fescue. He can't play to the green, and of course he hits it into the bunker, and everybody's, if you go in the bunker, you're making bogey for sure, right? And he comes out of it with par. So the emotional roller coaster you go through, plus that you've been putting well the whole tournament until two of the last three holes.
Well, I don't know if we've seen better evidence from like just a shot-to-shot comparison of the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat, with DeChambeau winning his second U.S. Open and just the electricity that was pumping through his veins in that moment. And Rory McIlroy in the room, the moment that putt goes in, immediately heads to the car and heads to the airport. He's out of there. But I think this is a great segue to the What's on Michael's Mind segment that we do each and every day here on the Lombardi Line, because it does pertain to Rory McIlroy and this drought that continues for him without a major championship.
I think that what's on my mind is, how are you going to handle this, Rory? Like, to me, this is behind you, and you're going to have to handle it, and everybody's going to have advice. But this is really about going back to the work. This is not about avoiding anything. This is about facing the reality of the situation. I think we learn this in sports, right? When you try to deflect, 13 seconds away, it always creeps up to you. When you come in and basically take it on and own it and admit it, then you can move forward. And I think that's the hardest challenge that you have to face, because you're going to be in other tournaments where he's going to have an opportunity to make a putt or do some things. He did a lot of good things in that tournament, made a lot of good putts. Unfortunately, the only memory we're going to have is two of the last three holes he misses putts that a great player should make, and he didn't. And I think it comes back to, how do I get back to that? How do I simulate that? What do I have to do mentally, physically, emotionally to get back to that situation? And running from it isn't going to help him. He's going to have to face it. I think all great teams face that. The Raiders went 6 conference championship games without getting to a Super Bowl. You got to face the reality. You have to understand, why can't you close it out? You have to kind of dig deep. I mean, look, the Minnesota Vikings went to 4 Super Bowls. The Buffalo Bills went to 4 Super Bowls in a row and couldn't win one. They could never figure it out. All of a sudden, now they get labeled, they're cursed, right? Well, you got to avoid that label.
With McIlroy, like, you have to imagine when the putt just like swoops out of the cup the way that it does, like both times, he's just got to be thinking to himself, this is not bleeping happening. And it's heartbreaking for him, because you know how many people are rooting for him. He's the second shortest shot in every major championship to win, behind only Scottie Scheffler, because he's been on that remarkable run of winning everything, which, except for these last 2 events, okay, things are finally starting to calm down a little bit for Scottie, evidently. But, I mean, everyone wants the drought to end and for him to have the moment, and just in clutch time could not close it out. And to your point, with it coming from putting is what's the most crazy, because they showed the stat on the screen endlessly. He was 496, so 496 this season for putts within 3 feet. He misses that one on 16, and then the shot on 18, which is just 9 inches over 3 feet, he misses again, and it's just everything comes out of you on that. You think still with Bryson that maybe when he is on the tree route that you've got a shot, that maybe he can mess things up, and DeChambeau just takes advantage of the moment and ultimately wins it. Just a remarkable ending to the U.S. Open, and you feel for Rory. I wonder if when he finally does win one, because you have to imagine and hope for his sake and for his sanity that he does get another major championship at some point, that, like, is it going to be just a massive lead? Because can he not win a close one? You know what I'm saying? Like, is it one of those things where he gets out to however big a lead and just holds on?
Well, I think every time we turned around, they were showing that Rory's never been able to come from behind. You know, that's the graphic that always gets up there, right? Mm-hmm. And I think at some point you're going to have to come from. It's like that quarterback thing we talked about. You know, when we start looking at these quarterbacks in the National Football League, like, who can lead you from behind? I think Warren Sharp put it out on his website, you know, like, with 5 minutes to go in a game and a minimum of so many extra plays, you know, what quarterback do you want on your side, you know? And there's some guys out there you don't want there. I mean, Joe Burrow you do, you know, but when you look down at the bottom of the list of the quarterbacks that are on that list, Gardner Minshew was 56. Justin Fields was 54. You know, that tells you something. So I think you got to face it, and I don't think you can run from it. I think you got to just stand there and take it and let, look, I'm going to be better. I'm going to prove that I can do this. And somehow it's going to change. Look, Mickelson went through it. A lot of guys go through this in their career, but Rory's getting to the point where, you know, at his age, he's going to have to break down that wall. We've been counting on him to go. How long have we been waiting for him to win all 4 of them? Yeah. And he's never been able to kind of come close at the Masters, which is just shocking to me. His game's set up to win the Masters, but he just doesn't.
Well, got one more chance this PGA Tour season. The Open Championship set for July 18th to get underway. Scottie Scheffler is your favorite at 5-1. Rory McIlroy, again, second shortest shot, sitting right there at 7-1, followed by DeChambeau at 12-1. DeChambeau was 20-1, by the way, pre-tournament odds for the U.S. Open. Cashed that ticket. Shout out Matt Humans, who gave it out right here on the Lombardi Line a week ago. Okay, Michael, I don't know how you feel about the hippity-dippity witchcraft and wizardry. If you're an 11/11 person and you believe in the crystals, I don't know. But in 2008, on this day, June 17th, 6/17, the Boston Celtics won their 17th title. The area code in Boston, 617. Could it happen again tonight? Could tonight be the night that the Boston Celtics close it out and get another title? Are we buying into the juju?
You're going to get me to buy into that. I just think, to me, you know, that game was one of those where we talked about it. You know, it wasn't like when Minnesota upset Dallas in Dallas in Game 4 and prevented the sweep. You know, Minnesota wasn't the better team. Everybody thought they're going to go home and win that game. I think Boston has proven they're the better team. And if they shoot, we have not had an elite shooting night from Boston. I think they'll play better defensively. They shot the worst. That we knew that there would be a game where they wouldn't shoot well. Well, it happened in Game 4. I don't think it's going to happen in Game 5.
Kristaps Porzingis' status, as far as what I'm seeing, still questionable. Although watching ESPN this morning, Brian Windhorst did make it seem as if Porzingis would play. I think that would be another feather in the cap for Boston, even if they can just get him on the court for limited minutes. I think that it would be impactful. I did lay the 6.5 this morning. I'm on Boston. I think that it could even be worth, honestly, I know that some people are going to want to stay away from this, but it could be worth looking at some alternate spreads as well, based on the way that Boston has bounced back in the playoffs so far to this point. They got embarrassed. They end up, everybody's sitting on the bench at the end of the game. Nobody's playing. They gave up on the game. This is the one at home in front of their fans. They want to close it out. They're going to bring everything they can. I love Boston in this spot. Also, we had Thomas Gable, director of the Race and Sportsbook at the Borgata in Atlantic City, join us in hour one. He said that respected money has been on over every step of the way on this series. We've had 4 straight unders, but the over is taking some money again today. When you look at that 210, Michael, any thought or indication on the total tonight?
I think the over is in play. I do. I think that Boston will shoot well, but I think this is an in-game strategy game because I think there'll be, if you can get a really close first quarter, right, where it's kind of nip and tuck, and the number's going to get adjusted on Boston down from the number you got, Stormy, at 6.5 or 7, and it's going to get adjusted down, where you can then make that bet and pick up a pretty good number and feel like Boston's still going to win the thing. So I really would. I like it in game, but I do like it over too because I think they're going to shoot well tonight.
Yeah, and again, we shared that stat from John Ewing earlier. Since 2005, teams that lost in the NBA Finals by 30 or more points are 4-0 straight up and 4-0 ATS the following game. I think that tonight's one of those nights the trend is your friend. I understand the thought process on the total as well. I think I'm going to stay off of the total tonight. I know how much, Michael, you just want me to come in hot with the teasers. I'm not doing it today. I'm staying away. I'm learning from my woes of the past. It'll be fine. But I'm excited for tonight's game. I feel like in both of these series, in the NBA and in the Stanley Cup Finals, like they got the clunker out of their system. There's probably a lot of nerves when you have the trophy in the building, when the Stanley Cup is in the building and you fly your whole family out for a road game. There's a lot of feelings and emotions that come with that. And I feel like for both of these sets, at least personally, Boston's going to get it done tonight. And I think the Florida Panthers are going to get it done tomorrow. When we come back here on the Lombardi Line, it's time for Step Into My Office. We'll step into Michael's office, that is. Rory McIlroy will take a visit, but a number of coaches, players, and a certain general manager that need a talking to. Don't go anywhere. The Lombardi Line returns coming up next.
This is the Lombardi Line with former NFL executive Michael Lombardi. Now here is your host, Stormy Buonantony, on Vsin, the sports betting network.
Next week, we're releasing our Vsin NFL betting guide, your ultimate resource for the football season, packed with detailed team, division, and conference analysis, and of course, best bets from all of our hosts and experts for the year. To get the guide, you must be a Vsin Pro subscriber. Right now, you can sign up for a Vsin Pro annual subscription for just $199, which is down from the regular price of $240. Plus, we're throwing in an extra month right now, absolutely free. With a Vsin Pro subscription, you'll get exclusive access to premium analysis, expert picks, and our advanced betting tools that give you an upper hand all year long. Don't miss your chance to sign up and save ahead of this NFL season. Visit vsin.com/subscribe now. And you got to use our promo code Lombardi to claim the discount and bonus month. That's vsin.com/subscribe, promo code Lombardi.
The appointments are lined up.
You waiting for somebody in there?
Got an appointment.
And it's not about what you want to hear, but what you need to hear.
It's not personal. It's strictly business. It's time you and me had a private talk, Winger. Step into my office.
It's Step Into My Office with Michael Lombardi. Mr. Lombardi, we'll see you now.
So we're going to kick things off here with Rory McIlroy stepping into the office, Michael, because after he lost the U.S. Open, he hopped in the car so fast we didn't get a chance to talk to him and have him take a seat right away. So today is the day. After reaching 8 under par, taking a 2-stroke lead as well going into the back 9, McIlroy finished the round with bogeys on 15, 16, and 18, ultimately losing to Bryson DeChambeau. How can Rory McIlroy overcome what is yet another tragic loss at a major in what is now a near decade-long drought?
Yeah, 10 years, Rory, you haven't been to won a major championship. And look, Steve Elkington once said, your mind is your greatest weapon. It's the greatest club you have in your bag, but it's also your Achilles heel. And you're going to have to get your mind right. Look, you played really well. You missed a couple putts. I mean, that's the reality. And you're going to have to figure out why you missed those putts. That's the most important thing. There's no sense in bringing anger into the situation. That's not going to help you. You're going to grip the club too tightly. You're going to feel the pressure as you move forward. The mental game is what you need to continue to work on. And for all the body talk, the self-talk to your body and the positivity, the body language really tells the story. And it shapes who you are. People tend to think that body language is about communicating with others, not with yourself. But body language is really about your body saying to you, not what you want to say to other people, which is what you did when you walked off and you left. That body language just reinforced that you're going to have to overcome this hill. You got to face it. You can't run from it. And I think that's by facing it, you'll learn to focus. I think one of the biggest mistakes we make in all sports is we kind of look for excuses. Don't make any excuses. You lost the tournament. You had a chance. You played really well, but you didn't do the things to close it. And now you got to figure out, what are we going to have to do to close this? What can we do to prepare yourself to close that out? And then go back and have some fun with the game. I mean, all this pressure that you're going to put on yourself to win is causing you to not have fun with the game. You know, you keep hearing you haven't won a tournament in 10 years. You keep hearing that you've had a way to choke. That's putting more and more pressure, and it's putting a tightness, and your body language is reflective of that. I think you really need to think about those things because you have the talent to win. You got to relax.
That's such a good way to put it, Michael, because I don't think anyone would doubt the talent of Rory McIlroy. He's one of the most talented, if not the most, on the entire PGA Tour. But this has continued to happen for a reason, and the mental game in golf is so critical. And for him, it's certainly taken a toll. I've said it once, I've said it 1,000 times, like a cookie in milk. He crumbled. Let's go to Joe Missoula and the Boston Celtics, who are looking for a closeout game tonight after taking a 3-0 lead in their series with the Mavs. Got torched in Game 4, 122-84, the final on Friday night. Boston today, a 6.5-point favorite at home with a win resulting in the franchise's 18th NBA title. What should Missoula's message be to the Celts tonight?
I think what, Joe, you need to do is just constantly remind the players playing at home doesn't assure us a win. Has nothing to do with it. What assures us a win is how we play, not where we play. And so let's go out there with a sense of energy and a sense of urgency and play our best basketball and feel the crowd, but don't ask the crowd for help. We're the ones who drive the crowd's reaction, not the crowd drives our play. This gets misunderstood a lot in sports. You build momentum through the crowd. The crowd doesn't give you momentum. Crowds can't bring you back to life, but crowds can extend your life. And I think you've got to deliver that message to the team and talk to them about that. That's the most important thing, because what happens is, we're playing at home, we're going to win. Why don't you call the Minnesota Timberwolves up on the phone and ask them how that worked out for them? Or the Denver Nuggets, who had a chance to win Game 7 against the Minnesota Timberwolves at home and couldn't close it out. Home isn't really what it is about. What it is about is how we play.
And this is a Boston Celtics team that loss on Friday was just the third loss for them this entire postseason. Each of the previous 2 losses bounced back to win that following game by 13 or more points. We'll see if they can ultimately close things out coming up tonight. Super Bowl winning GM Terry Fontenot stepping into the office, Michael. The NFL announced this past week that the Falcons would forfeit a 5th-round pick for tampering in free agency with everything surrounding Kirk Cousins and others. And in a behind-the-scenes look at the NFL draft, a Roku documentary, The Pick is In, it was revealed that the Falcons turned down an offer to move back one spot with the Chicago Bears, who wanted to secure Rome Odunze. It is something that literally needs to be seen to be believed. So let's throw it up there.
How's it called, Terry, right? Fontenot? How's it called, Terry?
You can see, yeah, but I just don't. Do you feel like you need that?
I think they take mostly. Would you move back one spot? Is that in the cards, or are you going to go this way? Just like a future 4th. We did the same thing with Philly last year. Okay. Thanks.
Michael, am I missing something? Did the Chicago Bears not draft Caleb Williams with the number 1 overall pick? Did they think they were going to steal their thunder and take their guy in Michael Penix Jr.? What is going on in the Atlanta front office? What are you saying to Terry Fontenot today?
Well, Super Bowl winning GM Terry, stay in the hall. I don't even need you in my office. Like, there's no way I'm letting you in. Any man who thinks that you can find 3 better coaches in the interview process, better than Bill Belichick, who's won 8 Super Bowls in his lifetime, then, I don't really have much time for you to come in the office. We can handle this in the hallway, which is where you belong. look, you love the limelight. You love selling people on the vision. But this is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. You could have picked up a fourth-round pick. You knew that they were willing to draft the quarterback. And I think this is an indication of, off to the side, Terry, why don't you stand up while I explain this? This kind of was like Chicago almost freezing the pick. You didn't really hear him say, we'll definitely give you a 4. They were just making sure nobody else was trying to trade into that spot to get a Dunze. I don't think they expected him to pick Penix, nor did many people. But, at some point, Terry, you're going to have to justify to people your team-building methodology. You have one first-round pick on defense who you didn't pick, A.J. Terrell. Everybody else on offense is a first-round pick. Arthur Smith was the problem last year. Who's going to be the problem this year? And why would you turn away a fourth-round pick? It was an easy fourth. You ended up giving away draft picks to trade back up into the second to get a guy that most people felt like was going to go at the bottom of the second. So you could have used that draft pick. But again, you're showing that you have no ability to think past one section. You sign Kirk Cousins for $100 million and then you draft a quarterback. What makes no sense at all? It makes no sense at all. If you wanted to draft a quarterback, draft them and use the $100 million to help your defense, which you haven't done at all. So stay outside my office. I got really no time for you at all. I can't even believe Elliot gave you an appointment. I would have given you no appointment.
The door is locked. Stay in the hall. You're not allowed in. But then as we said off the top too, you throw in the fact that they have to forfeit the 5th round pick because of the tampering stuff. You really probably could have used that pick again in another instance. It's just unbelievable. When I watched that, I was just, this is not happening. And my first thought was, how does Michael Lombardi feel about this and react to this? So I'm so glad that we have it on camera. One more, 30 seconds. Trevor Lawrence gets the bag. He signs the big deal. What's the next step for him in his development now that he is signed and is getting that money?
Work harder, Trevor. Show your teammates that this isn't about the money. It's about winning. That's what Patrick Mahomes done. He's gone in there and worked hard. He takes all the reps. He's trying to get better. Convince your teammates to get better. Don't convince your teammates you've been spoiled with the money. You got to work harder. You got to show more effort than you've ever shown before. You've got to remain the hungry soldier. If not, everybody will think it's gone to your head.
Trevor Lawrence, obviously a very highly touted quarterback coming out of college. Another one, Drake May, top 3 pick this year with the New England Patriots. How is he progressing? We have Pats insider Tom Curran joining us next of NBC Sports Boston. Get the latest on all things New England. Stay with us right here. This is the Lombardi Line on Vsin, the Sports Betting Network.
This is the Lombardi Line with former NFL executive Michael Lombardi. Now here is your host, Stormy Buonantony, on Vsin, the Sports Betting Network.
If you like watching and listening to Vsin, don't forget about all the great betting tools and content at vsin.com. Best bets from our show hosts and guests, betting splits, pro tips, trends, and of course, best practices. And right now on the homepage, betting previews for Game 5 in both the NBA and Stanley Cup Finals, as well as some NFL futures talk. Our own Mike Somich has an article up right now titled Why Andy Reid is a Bad Coach of the Year Bet, stressing the importance of not only understanding how narratives come into play in awards markets, but applying probability percentages to those narratives. It's a really interesting read. Again, live right now at vsin.com. Sticking with the NFL theme, a team with a lot of question marks in 2024, the New England Patriots. To help us talk it all over, we welcome in Tom Curran on the Progressive Guest Line. Knows this team inside and out. Patriots insider, can catch him on NBC Sports Boston. And between the Tom Brady jersey retirement, the new coaching regime in New England, and the Celtics in a potential closeout game today, I can't imagine what it's like in your neck of the woods. How are things, Tom? Thanks for joining us.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. We are locked and loaded. Another beautiful June day. Mike remembers these days well when they're just pristine and perfect. So we got it good, as usual, here in New England, fortunately for us.
Yeah, you got the closeout. You had the big, heat, an unseasonably warm June's coming, a heat wave's coming towards you. But let's talk about Drake May and the expectations for him, and also the fact that, what do you sense, based on the schedule that they have early, do you think there's any chance we'll see Drake May as a rookie?
I do. I think we'll see him as a rookie. And I think so much of it, Mike, is going to be contingent on how the team does. And obviously they are, ticketed as a team that's going to be a top 5 picking team again. And they have a difficult schedule. But if you look at the opportunities for him to come in and play, I look at it as probably not until after Halloween. And what it gets interesting, and you could probably speak to this as well, is, well, what if the team is 3-5 or 4-6 or whatever it is at that point? Do you want to say to everybody, okay, we're bringing in the rookie? Because by then, Jacoby Brissett might have played pretty well to get them to that point. So it's an interesting way to look at it, because he's not going to get the amount of work. I think what they're doing is bracing us for the idea that don't even look at what's going on behind the curtain. It's Jacoby until further notice.
Well, Tom, I'm curious your thoughts on whether or not seeing Drake May would be a good thing or not for his development. Like, is just the importance of getting NFL reps a good thing for him? Or I feel like a common theme that we talk about in the NFL all the time is more young quarterbacks are ruined than they are developed. Should he continue to sit and develop and grow from that standpoint? Like, how do you view those two items?
I view it as a team that really does not have a very good offensive line, and they have a lot of mid-tier wide receivers. They don't have anybody explosive on offense. So to me, if you're plugging somebody down, like, say, for instance, J.J. McCarthy in Minnesota, he's going to be plunked down in an offense with an offensive coach and a system that's been there and has a great opportunity to succeed. This is going to be a first-year offensive coordinator, a first-year head coach who's going to defer to the offensive coordinator and to Ben McAdoo to run the offense. So to me, I think you could do some damage to a player if you're not, as a coaching staff, equipped yet. I'm not saying they're ill-equipped, but not equipped yet to know what your personnel does for you on offense. And the offensive line, Mike, we looked at it last year. Yes, sir.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
It was so bad on the offensive line last year with Mac that it didn't even give him a chance to really prove that he was as bad as he ended up being. So to me, you don't want to go starting down that same road again. If you can't protect him, if he doesn't have people to throw to, you're just going to retard his progress.
Well, we often would say when I was there, the hardest job in football is going to be to replace the head coach because of all the titles he's won. And Mayo walks into a job that he's not going to be involved with the offense. He's not going to be involved with the defense. He's not going to be involved with the kicking game. Explain to me what Mayo is going to be involved with.
Well, to me, and I think it's interesting when you look at the Patriots and the way they did it, Mike, for all those years, Bill was more of a hands-on head coach than I think a lot of head coaches generally are. In terms of, he coached the offensive line for the last 2 years, as you know. His involvement with the defense was kind of minimal last year. So to me, Mayo was following the path of, like, say, a Tomlin, for instance, or a Sirianni, somebody who is supposed to be the overseer. And you go to your coordinators and your quote-unquote department heads as the coordinators to see how their managers of the positions are doing. So it's going to be a much more conventional, I think, and you can tell me if I'm wrong on that, it's a much more conventional NFL setup than what the Patriots have had. Because you always knew where the buck was going to stop with Bill.
Tom Curran, Patriots Insider, joining us on the Progressive Guest Line. You can follow him on X at Tom E. Curran. But let's keep going with the Jerod Mayo of it all. What's your perception been of him to this point as he has taken over? How has he been received, and what have you noticed most from him? Your big takeaways?
I think what's really interesting is, as much as Bill underachieved in the last couple of years, free agency-wise, draft-wise, some of the decisions that he made, as much as he underachieved, I think that people look past the 4-13 record in the 2022 season, and they really miss Bill. And they look at Mayo and say, well, you have to live up to the things that Bill did from 2000 to 2019. And I think that's a very difficult thing for Mayo to even really grasp. Now, when we look at all the times, Mike, you saw it too, that Robert Kraft's saber rattled toward Bill. I need to see improvement. We need to be a playoff team. We have playoff potential. I think we're going to be good. And if not, there'll have to be some consequences. Really forced his hand to, when the Patriots were as bad as they were, he had to make a move. I don't think that they wanted to make that move. I don't think they ever believed they were going to be moving on from Bill Belichick when they were entering last season. I don't think anyone saw a 4-13 record. So the entire timeline has been accelerated. They're not ready yet for a new coach, but they were not ready to have Bill do the rebuild. That's basically what it amounts to. They didn't want Bill to be in charge of spending the free agent money, developing the new quarterback, and that is really where the rubber meets the road. So I think they're a year ahead of where they expected to be in their succession plan. And I think that as a result, it's going to be a big learning year for Mayo.
What do you think is acceptable year for the Kraft family with Jonathan involved, with Robin Glazer involved, with Elliott Wolf now running everything, with Bill not coaching and developing a quarterback, Covington running the defense? What do you think a successful season looks like to you, Tom?
Just have it look better by the end of the year. And you were here for some of those times where traditionally the Patriots after Thanksgiving were a beast. No one wanted to deal with them. And really, since 2019, after Thanksgiving, they have floundered. So if you can look better toward the end of the season, then that's a victory, because it's not a good team. It doesn't have a lot of talent. It's got a massive learning curve ahead of it. So if you are, look, you remember 1993 as well as anybody. Drew Bledsoe's first year in the league. They were 1-11 through 12 games. Bledsoe had a 5-pick game. The second game they won that year, they won 7-2. But they closed the season with 4 consecutive wins. Can you have that kind of a close to your December and signal some growth on the coaching staff, signal some growth at quarterback position? It's a radical difference from where the Patriots were. And you saw that when the schedule came out, and the fact that we got nothing but Sunday at 1, Sunday at 1, Sunday at 1.
Also, when the schedule came out, you couldn't help but notice how challenging it is. We all knew what the opponents were going to be prior to that schedule release day, but when it did come out and you saw everything laid out in front of you on paper, what was your immediate reaction?
It's an unbelievably difficult time for them to try and rebuild, because there's no off weeks, especially in their division with Josh Allen, Tua, and the complement of players Tua has around him, and Aaron Rodgers, if he plays like Aaron Rodgers and makes it into the season. So in their own division, they got 2 challenging games against very good quarterbacks. They're outside the division against very good quarterbacks. I mean, I think defensively, it's going to be similar to last year. What they need to have is a uniform way of approaching how to play offensive football, that they can actually attack it in a way that seems as if there's a plan there. Because in the last 2 years, post-Josh, it was very haphazard, because they weren't sold on the quarterback, and then they had made the missteps with the coaching succession plan. And then once they were out on Jones, it was really just biding time to get to the next year. So to me, it's going to be a really, really challenging schedule for them. And it's going to be a lot of times where the Patriots are small print at the bottom of the agate in terms of people looking to see how they did.
Tom, before we let you go real quickly, do the Boston Celtics win tonight? Are they raising banner 18 after this?
They are raising banner 18. Okay. They're just so deep that, I think Luka Doncic is the best player in the series, and he played like it the other night, and he engaged himself on defense. But the Patriots, the Celtics just have waves of talented players. Their 5th or 6th best player would be the 3rd best player on Dallas. So to me, the Celtics just have too much there, and we'll win the game.
I'm right there with you. Tonight's the night. Tom, thank you so much for the time.
Thanks,
we appreciate you.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you. Pleasure. Thank you so much.
Again, follow him on X at Tom E. Curran. Doing a great job. You can catch him as well on NBC Sports Boston. Patriots Insider. We're going to hit the break when we come back. We are wrapping up what has been a fast and furious Monday edition of the Lombardi Line. Don't go anywhere.
This is the Lombardi Line with former NFL executive Michael Lombardi. Now here is your host, Stormy Buonantony, on Vsin, the Sports Betting Network.
We're this close to crowning an NBA champion. Could tonight be the night? Well, with the action heating up on the court in Boston, it's even hotter at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use our code VSIN. That's VSIN. When you do, new customers get a $150 bonus bet when you bet just $5 only on DraftKings Sportsbook. The crown is yours. Back here on the Lombardi Line, and, while on Boston area sports, had a great conversation before the break with Tom Curran, NBC Sports Boston broadcaster, Patriots insider, just on all things New England and kind of his state of the union on all things Drake May and Gerard Mayo. Michael, what were some of your big takeaways from the conversation?
Look, I think the conventional way of doing things, what Tom said about the Mayo role as a head coach, I found rather interesting. I think it should go back to the other way. I think Kyle Shanahan runs every single detail in San Francisco. Andy Reid runs every single detail in Kansas City. But there's a perception out there that Tom and the New England Patriots have that is, they wanted to have a more collaborative effort, right? They didn't want Bill to be in charge of free agency, even though they signed most of the guys that Bill drafted or had in free agency. So, look, I think this divorce was inevitable. I don't think it had anything to do with the fact that the Kraft family wants to run their team. They wanted their team back, which is every right that they have. Now, they're masquerading it around, well, we have Elliott running personnel and Mayo, first-time head coach, never coordinated a defense, never coordinated anything. But they have Jonathan Kraft, who's now got his opportunity to be intimately involved with the team, even though they'll say that's not the case. We know it is. So I think there's a lot of – I think what you're going to find out is that the man who left did a lot of work. And I think the applause that we heard at the Brady ceremony, the fans of New England know that. And that's why I asked him your question about what is success. Yeah. Like, what does look good? And I think that's got to be something that's got to be handled because those Boston fans, they know what looks good and they know what looks bad.
I do think.
And they're going to know who to blame. They're going to know who to blame. You're not going to get away with blaming Elliott. You're not going to get away with blaming Mayo.
Yeah, that standing ovation, though, to your point, I think that was really cool and a special moment for him to have that. One question I did regret not asking Tom when we had him on was what he thinks about Bill Belichick as a coach moving forward, and if he is going to be the name of the next coaching cycle or if he gets phased out. I think that's a thing that on the surface you feel like, well, how could you not want to hire Bill Belichick and all that he's accomplished? But that was what we thought this past coaching cycle as soon as he became available and didn't land anywhere. That's something I'm very curious about moving forward with him.
Me too, especially with some of these teams. Like, we started this show talking about Jacksonville and Trevor Lawrence's new contract and the fact that they have this huge stadium that's getting funding from the city to help them build. Why did Bill Parcells become the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys? Because Jerry needed to get Jerry's world built, and it helped. It gave him credibility. I think Shah Khan needs the same thing, unless Doug Peterson does a great job this year. But if they don't, how do you look at Belichick being out there? There's only one team idiotic enough to say that there are three guys that they interviewed that were better than Belichick. Only one team's that stupid. You can't be that dumb. Look, you can say you didn't want to hire Bill, but you don't have to scorch the earth behind it by making that ridiculous statement, especially when Kaiser Sose McKay's 169-70 in his career of running that franchise. So to me, somebody's going to be smart enough to do it. I think Philadelphia was thinking hard about it, and they gave Sirianni another year. Dallas is certainly primed because Jerry wasn't going to extend anybody's contract. So that Belichick cloud that's hanging is going to loom larger than ever before. And that applause, the players' tributes, which we haven't stopped coming. There's more that want to coming out, is going to carry it further. Because how do you sit there and say, I don't hire the guy who's winning as coach? I can say this all the time. Ask Andy Reid who he doesn't want to coach against. Ask Kyle Shanahan who he doesn't want to coach against. How about this? Ask Sean McVay, who everybody thinks makes every coach who comes in contact with him gets a head coaching job or a coordinator job. Ask him who he doesn't want to play against. He's the guy who said before the Super Bowl, after they scored 537 points during the regular season, that watch us just assassinate the New England defense. We're going to humble all of them over there, and they scored 3 points.
He's a tactician. There's no doubt about it. And you know that we will have it up here whenever, if ever, those odds become available for Bill Belichick next team odds. These last few minutes here, Michael, let's wrap up the day talking Game 5 in the NBA Finals. Boston with an opportunity to close things out tonight after what was, an an uncomfortable loss in Dallas, right? And so you always ask that question, is this an instance where Dallas feels confident that they figured something out against Boston, or was it just kind of a natural letdown spot when you're up 3-0, you have more wiggle room, and then you're going to have that gentleman sweep and close things out and raise the trophy at home?
Well, I mean, look, here's what you're saying to yourself if you're taking Dallas again. Boston's going to shoot 36% from the field. You're going to say that Boston's going to attempt 41 3-pointers in the game and only make 14 of them. You're also going to say Boston, which has made a living going to the line, gets to the line 13 times. And they turn the ball over 13 times, right? And now you're going to turn around and say Dallas is going to shoot against a very good defense 50%. And if from the three-point line, they're going to attempt 37, they're going to make 15 of them. So, I think that's a little bit misleading. Dallas had that lead early in the first game in Dallas, but then it whittled away in a 21-point. They made a comeback. But, look, I think Boston's defense will be much better. Now, they only turned it over 8 times in the last game, Dallas did. So their defense, Boston's defense, is going to feed themselves off the energy from the crowd. But like I said about, the office visit with Joe Missoula, you're going to have to create your own energy. You can't rely on the crowd to create that.
Again, Celtics in the bounce-back role this postseason have been really good. The previous 2 losses they had, lost to Miami by 10. They bounced back with a 20-point win, and then round 2 against Cleveland, lost 118-94. Following game, a 13-point victory. We'll see if they can do it again today. Again, I did lay the 6.5 when we talked to Thomas Gable of the Racing Sportsbook at the Borgata. He said that's the way most people seem to be betting it tonight, which, yes, always does make me a little bit nervous, but I feel pretty firmly on that side. Then again, Michael, I felt pretty firmly going into Friday's game that it wasn't going to be a 38-point loss, so neither here nor there. He did say also some respected money on the over, but again, there has been every step of the way this series as well, and we're 4-0 to the under at this point. The total, 210 as of right now. And apparently, so Kristaps Porzingis, I know his availability is still in question. Joe Missoula told reporters he's trying, he's going to do everything he can to put himself in position to be out there. Brian Windhorst earlier this morning certainly implied as if Kristaps Porzingis would play. How much of an impact do you think he will have one way or another?
Huge. I mean, that's the key, right? I mean, when he's not in there, Kyrie's had his 2 best games when he hasn't played because he can penetrate and get to the line, and, he doesn't have to worry about the rim protection as much. Plus, his ability is a matchup problem. They don't really have anybody that can guard him with his highs. He can shoot over most every defender that they have on Dallas. So I think that certainly gives them a lift. He makes it very difficult for them. So we'll see. I think that's going to be an important role to play, and that's another obstacle that I think Dallas is going to have to overcome.
And we'll talk about the Stanley Cup final a little bit more tomorrow with that Game 5 coming up Tuesday night. But it leads to
I can't wait to hear what you got going for that tomorrow. I literally can't.
You already know the bets are in pocket. I'm locked and loaded.
Oh, I know you are. I mean, you had a first, what most of people that watch our show don't know, this is your first weekend you've had off in forever. And so with all that time to think and ponder and, study the hockey, I knew you're coming away with a bunch of picks in your pocket that have already been locked and loaded, and you're going to go right for it. But we'll talk about that. You'll have plenty of time tomorrow, to just go ahead and tell us why you think the Panthers are going to cash all your tickets.
Well, and I already have them in futures bets, and then we're just going to get a little bit deeper in it tomorrow. But I do want to close the show on our pro tip, which does pertain to hockey, a brief conversation that we had earlier with TG about the movement in Conn Smythe for Sergei Bobrovsky, who was a prohibitive $5 favorite ahead of that obvious clunker in Game 4 where he gave up 5 goals in an eventual 8-1 loss. Now's probably a good time to buy in on Bobrovsky for Conn Smythe if you can, as he's getting a plus 110 price. I think this, like many awards markets, are very narrative driven, and if Bobrovsky's able to bounce back, like I think many of us do anticipate he will do tomorrow night, it's a good opportunity to get plus money on him. We talked about betting Barkov the last week prior to Game 4 where he was a 5-1 shot as well. So you could be in a situation where you've got plus money on either one of those guys who are almost certainly going to walk away winning that honor. And again, it's not just a Stanley Cup final award, it's a Stanley Cup playoff award. That is a wrap for us today, but more on that tomorrow. Good luck with your bets and go Celtics. Sorry about it. Bye.
Yeah. Thanks, Stormy.
DraftKings, giving a bonus bet back if I lose so I don't have to sweat my bet?